Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. I love that there are already people joining us live. Thank you so much for being here. If you are watching us on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so that we know where you are watching us at. But thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Her Version. This podcast is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. So today I am speaking with an amazing woman named Iris Goldfeder. Iris is the CEO of GasStoveCreative with more than 25 years of success in digital marketing and traditional marketing. Iris loves kicking ass on stage, singing hard rock, metal, country. Yes, the standards are classic rock and blues. I can totally see that. She is passionate about social issues and giving back to the community. She is the president of Unmasking Lafayette, a local non-for-profit 50C, is a 51C?
501c3.
Which she co-founded with her friend Michelle Zaremba.
Zaremba, close.
I love that. Where's she from?
I think like Indiana and then Florida. I should probably know that. Sorry, Michelle.
What an interesting last name. Well, I so love that you are here, that you're hanging out with us. And I just learned before we jumped on that you're usually the one doing the interview.
I am. So this is like, oh shit, the tables are turned. And I was just kind of like jamming in the beginning because I like your jam. So yeah, this is the first podcast that I'm actually being interviewed on. So it's an interesting turn of events.
Yes, so freaking excited. And what an honor for us to be able to debut Miss Iris Goldfeder, because I know that you're accomplished. You're an accomplished entrepreneur. You've done all the things. You've been in the industry for decades, plural. So super excited to have you here. Can you tell us where you're from before we jump in?
Originally from New York. Right now I'm in Lafayette, Indiana, but born and raised in New York, high school in Florida, back to New York,
I love
Chicago, and then here.
I love it. Very cool. Well, I want to kind of just jump in. I know we have a lot to cover. I know that you do a lot with all of the humans and your business that you run. But I kind of want to backtrack. I love to hear people's stories and some of the struggles and triumphs that they've gone through in their life to get to where they are now, especially the females that come on that are entrepreneurs, because I think a lot of times their past and the things that they've kind of had to jump over or run through have created a really strong identity for them to be able to be who they are today. So I want to ask, when you think back between baby and present tense, what story would you say changed your entire life? And what did you learn from that story? Where was the pivot?
So the pivot, and this is going to be pretty funny, but it was actually from my ex. And way back in the day, 80s, 90s, I was with somebody who was married, a woman, and she was in a really horrible, abusive relationship. And I'm backtracking because fast forward about 10 years later, I'm driving in Chicago. I was working, I'm driving, and I get a phone call, and I don't recognize the number. And I usually don't answer, numbers that I don't recognize, but something said answer. So I pick up, and I'm like, hello. And I hear I, and my friends and family call me I. And I right away recognize, and I said her name, and I was like, how are you? And she's like, good. I was like, how did you get my number? Because it's like a whole different number, because I had just moved from New York. And anyway, so, she asked me how I was doing, and I told her I was doing great. I'm dating this wonderful woman who's now my wife, Heather. And she said, I just called to thank you. And I said, for what? Now, I'm just going to say that the relationship ended poorly because she was supposed to leave her husband for me, and she ended up leaving for another guy. And I was crushed and devastated and all of this stuff, right? So she goes, well, I want to thank you. And I went, for what? And she said, for saving my life. And I was like, I got to pull over, because I was just right. So I pull over and I said, what are you talking about? And she goes, if it wasn't for you loving me and supporting me, he probably would have killed me.
Wow.
And it hit me that it wasn't about me. All of the shit that we went through, for as long as we went through it, all the hurt, the heartache, the pain, had nothing. It wasn't my journey. It was about her journey and helping her get. And that made me realize that, which I've always known, but it kind of solidified the fact that my purpose in life is to be of service, not to be stepped on and not to have my heart trampled on. I want to be clear about that, but really to be of service, and that my experiences or things that I experience, by and large, are really to be able to help somebody not go through what I went through.
Wow.
Yeah, it
How
was pretty
kind
intense.
of her. How awesome that she called you and decided to take some time just to have that conversation.
Yeah. And it was an amazing conversation. I mean, I cried. I said, thank you for letting me know that, because it sucked. I mean, it was a hard time. But I believe everything happens for a reason. And yeah, so that I think was one of the pivotal moments.
Wow. Do you remember anything specific that kind of changed for you mentally or emotionally after that?
I think I started looking at things that I was going through. When I hung up the phone, I kind of took stock of where I was, who was in my life, what was going on, what lessons was I learning, and how could these experiences help other people?
Yeah.
And it was an instant shift. It wasn't even like I thought about it for a week or two. Like, I literally sat there after that phone call and was like, holy shit, what
Wow.
does this mean? And I instantly just took stock of everything. And then a lot of things kind of made sense too. It was like, oh, that's why this is happening. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So interesting. Do you by any chance practice personal development or personal growth? Like, have you done any work in that?
Yes. I've been working with a mindfulness coach for 3 years. If I can give her a shameless plug, Diane
Yes.
Titterton out in the UK. If it wasn't for her, I would like lost my mind. And it started when COVID hit. When COVID hit, my biggest fear was of either myself or my wife dying in the hospital alone. So I
Wow.
went into a panic. And I'm usually not the panicky kind of person, but I couldn't control what everybody else was doing. And I'm not good when I can't control people, especially when it has to do with me living or dying. So I started working with Diane, and started working on mindfulness and breathing. And I'm still working on the meditation piece. And she laughs at me all the time, but I'm getting better. But that's still a work in progress for me. But I've been doing that, and breathing, and just like taking a minute. So what mindfulness has done for me was, if something would happen, I would be like pissed off for a week. Now it gets 90 seconds or it gets 10 minutes. But regardless, I choose how much time it gets. And that control is everything.
Wow. Can you share like what's happening in your head while during that that's different than what was happening before? What's the shift?
So the shift is I control my emotions. My emotions don't control me.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a funny. I'm gonna turn my heater off. A funny example was last year. My wife had a flat tire, and I had to go to the tire place to. She needed a new tire, so we switched cars. And I hate switching cars with her because she works in a steel mill and she's greasy, and I have like a nice car, and she had a nice new car, but she doesn't care if hers gets shitty. And I'm like, I want to keep my stuff nice. So anyway, so we switched cars for the day, and they called me in the morning and say, hey, the tire is in, come in. So I said, great. I said, and now this is about 2:00 in the afternoon. I said, I could be there in 15 minutes. Are you guys busy? He said, no, we're not busy at all. I said, great. So I get in the car, I drive to the place, and I get there and I said, hey, I'm Iris Goldfeder. I'm here, for the tire. And he goes, it's probably like a 3.5-hour wait. And I said, I just called 15 minutes ago and you said there was no wait. Come right now. And here I am. And now you're telling me there's a 3-hour wait. He's like, well, sometimes we just get busy like that. And I said, no, can I please speak with the manager? He goes, I am one of the managers. So I want to choke him. Just, I just really was like, are you even kidding me? Like, I just called, like I have all the time in the world to screw around. Right.
Yeah.
So, so I'm like, okay, when can we get this done? And he says, tomorrow. So I said, okay. So he goes, give me a time tomorrow. So I said, 2:15. He says, okay, fine. I said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. So I get in the car and I'm driving and I am pissed because this guy did not respect my time. He could have given 2 shits. So that really frustrated me because, I respect people's time. I respect people. So I'm in the car and I'm really pissed off and I'm like, bastard, I'm giving him 90, he gets 90 seconds. So I'm driving and I realize 90 seconds is enough. And I'm like, he gets until I get home. So I let myself be angry until I pulled into the garage and then it was gone.
Yes.
But I knew I needed that extra time because I just felt it, but I controlled it. It didn't control me. And I told Diane that, and I said, you are going to be so proud of me because this is what you've done for me.
Yeah.
And it just really, it changes all of it.
Yeah. When you first start doing that, practicing controlling your emotions, what's like the first step towards that? Because people are hearing that and they're like, wow, cool, good for you, Iris. But like, I could never do that.
But you can.
So like, what's the first thing though? Is it just like,
breathe?
Okay.
The first step is like the second whatever it is happens, I'm like, okay. Like I take a breath. Before I asked for the manager, I took a breath.
Okay.
Because I knew I was pissed.
Yeah.
But there's that old adage, count to 10. You don't necessarily have to count to 10, but you do need to take that breath. Because if you pause and take that breath, it gives you a second to just kind of come down. Because we're so heightened at that point, right?
Yeah.
We're so, we're angry and we want to choke the guy. I mean, I would never do that, but that's like our thing is like, you wasted my time. I could have been working with a client. Like they don't know, that time is money. They don't care. They're doing what they're doing. They don't know that I'm an entrepreneur and that every minute that I'm away from my computer or whatever is time taken away from my business.
Yeah.
But it's that as soon as it happens, you breathe and then you just kind of, okay. but you have to be in control of it. And that's the hardest part for me was, initially, okay, I'm breathing. I still want to kill him. But it's breathing and realizing that, are you really going to let him ruin the next day, like the whole day? No,
Yeah.
this guy is insignificant. So, yeah, he pissed you off. Let yourself feel the anger and then let it go.
Yeah.
So that's
Definitely
usually the
makes
thought
sense.
process.
When you first were doing it, was it like, I'm going to take it from being pissed off from an entire day to like give myself 2 hours? Or did you just right away learn how to control it and you could just
Oh, no, no. It went from like, especially in the beginning with COVID and everything, and trying to really. Now, my therapist helped me immensely. I mean, she helped me realize that it was because I couldn't control it, and then once I realized I can only control my environment, and not what anybody else was doing, that helped a lot of things. But when it came to the mindfulness piece, it it took a while. I mean, the reason that I went to mindfulness, and this is Diane's favorite story, I threw my phone. I mean, I threw my phone because I was so pissed off with a certain cable provider. We'll leave it at that. That I was just like, because, my fuse was really, really short. And I had a short fuse anyway. So now it was like even shorter. And I remember my arm went up and my wife looked at me and she was like, I saw the thought process in her head, like, she's not going to throw it. And then my arm went down and I didn't like throw it across the room. I like threw it straight down. So I broke my phone, but that's another story. But then when when I did that, I was like, it's time. It's time. I need to get my shit together.
Yeah.
Especially running a business and everything. It was like, okay, I really need to do this. So I got hold of Diane and she laughed because I told her I threw my phone. And then the first practice was, when you get mad, don't throw things. Number one. Okay, good. And then it wasn't really, it wasn't a practice. It was more recognizing the feeling and listening to the lesson that I was being taught.
Okay.
And bringing that inward. And it took a while. I mean, it took a while, probably took about 4 or 5 months before I actually was able to start to let things go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely gives people hope to recognize. I think a lot of people don't recognize that you can control your feelings. I know when
Yeah.
I first started doing what you're talking about, I was like, I can't even do that.
Yeah.
Like, my feelings are my feelings. I can't
How can I
control.
shut this off?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do I make this less?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems impossible. But
Mhm.
yeah, once you really start honing in on it, it is definitely something you can do. I so thank you for sharing that story. I think that that's something that every single person can relate to, whether it's an angry emotion or emotional, just like getting upset or crying.
Yeah.
I know that there was been times in my life where I either do one or the other. I'm either crying like a crazy person or yelling like a crazy person. And, so it's not always that I was flying off the handle. Sometimes the same exact thing would happen, but I would just flip flop from one drastic emotion to the other.
Mhm.
So really being able to hone in on that has been very empowering for me. When you think about life in general and your own experiences and your journey, what would you say for yourself has been your number one lesson that you've learned about life?
Um, it's not always about me.
Ooh, tell us more.
Well, the X story, right? It's not always about me. I went through a period where, so a friend of mine, Jennifer Fry, and I don't know if you know her, but she has an amazing saying, and it's hurt people hurt people.
Hmm.
And I have been around very many very many toxic people, from employers to just people in general. And now when I see that kind of behavior, I know it's not about me, it's about them. And that was really hard to not only to learn, but to believe. Because when you have people telling you, you suck, you're this, you're that, I've been doing this way longer than you, I know better than you, blah, 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 blah. After a while, even though you know it's not true, you start believing it. Because it's that repetition. And to get to a place that when somebody is cruel, A, to walk away, but B, to not internalize that was huge.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. If you could wish for anything, what would you wish for?
You know, I thought about this question, and this is going to be corny, but world peace. I am tired of all the freaking hate. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of my people being in a club getting killed because of who they are.
Yeah.
I'm tired of, people being in a synagogue or a mosque and praying and being killed for who they are. I'm tired of, Black people walking down the street and being hunted because of I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. And I know that it's nothing that's going to be fixed in my lifetime, but if a genie ever popped out of a bottle and said, you can have one wish, it would be stop the fucking hate.
Yeah.
That's it. Because I'm tired.
Yeah. Definitely. How long have you and your wife been married? Is it wife?
Wife, yes. We've been legally married 10 years because it wasn't legal before that, but we've been together 19. So I thought we were together 20 years this year because, we're going on a trip and I'm like, woohoo, it's our 20th and our 10 year. And she's like, no, 19 years. So we've been together for 19 years, but married for 10.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So fun. How'd you guys meet?
We actually met working on an online project. So we met online, but not in like on a match.com or anything like that. We were working on a writing project and we kind of got thrown into it and sparks flew and here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
How does one, and excuse my being so naive, but how does one go about asking sexual preference? You just ask?
No.
Like, how do you find out?
She was straight before we got together. So, so there's that. That's a whole nother conversation for another time. But yeah, she was, well, I shouldn't say that. She wasn't straight. She was with a guy.
Yeah.
And she isn't anymore. So
Wow.
I mean,
No kidding. Were you guys in the same state?
No, we were in different states.
Okay.
She was in Pittsburgh and I was in Chicago.
Wow. So that's a lot of transitioning going on just in general.
Yeah. And, when you say sexual preference, it's like, I think now it's different because you go where you find the people that you want to find, right?
Yeah.
It was different back then. There were gay dating sites, but they were scary. So I don't know, but but we met and kind of fell in love and here we are.
That's awesome. What a cool story.
Yeah. And
I
she's
can't even imagine all of that. Like, there's so many layers to that.
Yes.
How fun. What a journey.
Yep.
Well, I would love, first of all, I want to thank those that are watching live. Thank you so much for being here, hanging out with us. If you're watching on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so that we know where you are watching us at. But I want to ask, Iris, I know that you do so much as far as being in the entrepreneurial world. I would love to just kind of start out with GasStoveCreative. Where did the name come from? I guess share with us. I already know, but share with us.
Right. Everybody knows that.
And,
Everybody asks that.
Yeah, and tell us more of what you do for all the humans.
So, GasStoveCreative came from when the business was started really out of necessity, because I was working for a business that I got let go from. And one of my clients from that business got hold of me and said, let's start a business. And we weighed the pros and cons, and his last name began with an S, and my last name began with a G, and my wife's last name began with a C. So we wanted it, GSC. And we were like, what in the hell could we come up with marketing that's going to be GSC? So we spent the day doing it, and we finally came up with GasStoveCreative because my former partner was into cooking as much as I was. I used to cook professionally. So it just kind of fell into that. And then as the years, went on, and I took this back over myself, the meaning changed a lot because of my podcast, the cookbook, like everything kind of ties into it. But that's really where it kind of came from, was our three initials, and then our passion for cooking. And then, okay, it kind of makes sense, and it works.
That's so awesome.
So that's the origination of the name, or the origin of the name.
Very cool. And then what do you do? What's all the stuff that you do for
So
individuals?
we're a boutique marketing agency. We do traditional marketing. We do a little bit of digital marketing strategy. We like to meet people where they are. A lot of agencies will be like, oh, you should be here, so let's do all this, and we're going to get you there. And for me, it's like, you're here now. You want to be here. So this is your current state. This is your desired state. How do we get there? And that's it. And I try to explain things and I think that's my differentiator, is that the way I explain things is why most people are working with me, is because they're like, I spoke to somebody else who does what you do, and they got into all the technical, we're going to need this, and we're going to need this, and a meta tag, and a this, and a that. And nobody cares about the meta tags. Nobody, it's like, what did one of my clients said a couple of weeks ago? I don't care what you put in the damn omelet. Just give me the omelet.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And that's what I do. It's like, here you go.
Yeah.
So
fantastic. So
but
what parts of marketing do you cover specifically?
Mainly consultation and strategy is like the biggest two. We do have options for, the digital piece. So, SEO, social media. We also develop websites, and we do traditional marketing, like we do media buying. I have a client right now that we just did a media buy for. Next year, we're looking at a huge media buy. And that's TV, billboards, radio, and, people talk about billboards, and they actually still do work. So I think all media works. The only one that I think that is really kind of sort of on the way out, and I hate to say this because I used to work in it, is newspapers. They're just not as relevant anymore. Not many people really get them anymore, and the ones that do are kind of dying off. And so it's, which is sad, because it used to be a phenomenal medium.
Yeah. Definitely. I actually worked in the newspaper industry for 15 years.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's, and no longer, because of, it's just not, they laid off and they're downsizing like crazy.
Oh yeah. and they're moving their, like, you know, our design team used to be here and now it's in like Kansas City, Missouri or something. So they've just like moved things away and everything is digital, and it's not what it used to be. I used to love waking up on Sunday and having the Sunday paper and reading it, and not anymore.
Yes, I totally agree. Where do you hang out the most on social media? Where can people find you if they want to follow you?
Ooh, mainly LinkedIn. Like personally, I'm on Facebook, but most of my stuff is on LinkedIn. Well, I shouldn't really say that. Most of my posting is on LinkedIn, but I'm also on Instagram and personally on Facebook.
Beautiful. Fantastic. And are you under Iris Goldfeder or GasStoveCreative?
Personally, yes. Otherwise, it's at GasStoveCreative.
Okay. So like LinkedIn is
Iris Goldfeder or GasStoveCreative.
Oh, okay. Both. Very cool.
Yeah. Yep. Well, because I have my company on there as well. The business on there. So
yeah. What are your big dreams for your company?
That's like a loaded question, because I think when I first started, I wanted a legacy business. And I don't think I want that anymore. I don't want something so big that I can't be in it a little. You know, I help my customers and my clients get to the point that they don't have to work in the business anymore and they can work on it, because I think that's important, because when you're in it, you can't see what's coming. You can't see the future trends. You can't see all of those things. But when you work on it, the people are working in it for you so that you can work on it and see what's coming and see what you need to do, what the next important thing is to do. And for me, I really want this to be, a place that clients come, they know that they're getting personalized service. And I don't need 100, 200, 300 clients. I don't want to, I want to know every single person that we're working with. I want to have a relationship with, because for me, it's all relationship based. The whole thing. The reason the people work with us is because of me. At some point, I would like to get it to where, you know, yes, they're working with us because of me and I can guide them to the right people in my organization. But I think my biggest dream is to grow this for the next few years and then probably, you know, sell it in 8-9 years.
Yeah. Makes sense. What do you see as being the biggest struggle that entrepreneurs are having regarding marketing?
They think they can do it themselves.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it's like what happens with marketing is it's not always a tangible thing. There's not always a tangible ROI.
Yeah.
You want there to be, right? You could say, well, how did you hear of us? Oh, you know, or you have a landing page that somebody goes to and, you know, that works. But it's not always a tangible thing. And then the other thing is that people don't realize that what's going to help grow their business is marketing it.
Yeah.
They don't get it. They just think, oh, I'm going to grow my business. Well, if you spent money on marketing, your business would grow a lot faster, because that's getting the word out about your business.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't get that, which kind of blows my mind. And I know marketing companies that don't do it, which blows my mind. It's like, what do you mean you're a freaking marketing agency and you don't, how do you not see that? So it's really, it's like this, it's almost like taboo. It's kind of weird. But when they get it, they get it. And, you know, people say to me, oh, well, you're not going after the sale hard enough. You're not this. And to me, I don't want to fight you for it.
Yeah.
You know, I will explain to you why it's important. I will explain to you how it's going to help grow your business. But if you don't want to do it, I'm not going to hammer you until you do it.
Yeah.
I'm doing you a disservice. And, you know, why do I have to do that? I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So
what's the best way that a marketing company should be marketing their business? Should they be on social, or should
Oh,
they get a
definitely.
billboard?
No, I don't. You know, I don't know. I don't think a marketing company should be on a billboard. I do think they should be on social for sure. Video is huge. I used to do video all the time. I need to get back into it. My coach, because I work with a coach as well. I mean, I think we all should work with coaches, right? I work with a coach, and we had our session last week, and I'm like, I need to be doing more video. He's like, let's do it. And so we started, doing video. So I'm gonna probably in the next few weeks, we're going away, but when we come back, I think I'm going to start hitting video pretty consistently and pretty hard, because for any business, really, this is what builds the relationship. They they watch you, they learn from you, they get to know, like, and trust you, and when they know, like, and trust you, they want to work with you. So, and a lot of it is the the front facing expertise.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yep.
Why do you do what you do?
I love what I do. I really do. I love watching a business go from here to here. I love watching the transformation, and I love helping people. And I think we talked about this, but last Christmas I was handing out gifts, and one of my clients gave me a basket, and I was like, you don't have to do that. And he goes, I want you to know that it's not lost on me what you do.
Oh,
I said, what do you mean? And he said, your efforts on our behalf helps put food on my guy's table.
yeah.
And that changed things for me. That changed, how I looked at things.
Yeah.
And because I never looked, I always looked at it that, yes, I was helping them grow their business. Yes, by growing their business, they'll have more money to do, the things. But I never looked at it as feeding somebody.
Yeah.
So that did two things. That changed the way that I was looking at things, and it also put some pressure on, right? Because now it's like, holy shit, you're responsible for feeding this guy's, employees, families. And so you better really, be coming to play. But that's why it's to help people grow and excel. And, the look on their face when they get to that desired state is phenomenal. It's like the best thing in the world, and just seeing your efforts helping them. Because for me, it's all about helping people.
Yeah.
Of course I want to make money, but if I'm going to make money and not help people, then I'm not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely. That's phenomenal. I love it.
yeah.
So GasStoveCreative.com, that's where people can find more information if they're interested.
Yep.
Fantastic. I so appreciate you being here. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
I don't know what, there's like so many things to like talk about, but what, like, I'm looking at all of these questions that you've had on here. One thing that I did want to touch on that you had on there was, at what point are we good enough? And that was something that I spent a lot of today thinking about. And I think that, what metrics are we using for that? Are we using outside metrics or inside metrics?
Ooh.
So for me, it's the inside metrics. It's when do I know that I'm good enough?
Yeah.
And when I know, when I don't worry about being good enough, anymore, that's when I know I'm good enough. But that's an internal metric. That's something that for me, and I think that that's what should be guiding us, is that internal metric, because the external metrics that's everybody's opinion of us.
Yeah.
And what people think of us is none of our business, right? We've heard that like a million times. And people probably aren't even really thinking of us, which is the kicker. So when we base those metrics on, the external, I think we're doing a disservice to ourselves.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, for you, how did you know that you were good enough?
My story took work. I started out with I am statements, to tell you the truth. I came out of a very narcissistic religion and a very narcissistic relationship. So I was just down and out mentally, emotionally, very low self-worth. And I started with I am statements. I didn't have a coach at that time. I just kind of like read a book. And I would look at myself in the mirror and I would say powerful things like, I am beautiful, or I am smart. And when I first started, I couldn't even think of this sentence without crying.
Wow.
Like I would just think about saying, I am powerful. And I couldn't even mouth the words without just crying. And then it got to the point where I was able to actually say the sentence, but still crying. And then it got to the point where I could slowly say the sentence without crying. And now I can say it very easily. I could say all of my very powerful, empowering I am statements. But I think watching that evolution happen for myself over the course of probably an entire year, to tell you the truth, is when I really started to feel as if I'm enough. Like watching that evolution. And then once I was able to really say it and look at myself in the eyes, I started to feel that like, wow, I am actually enough.
Yeah. And that's powerful. I mean, that's, I am enough.
Yeah.
Those words are, the other three words that you want to hear, right?
Yeah.
And to get there and know it, and in a year, I mean, that's pretty amazing, because sorry, Skylar has her own opinion on stuff. Amazon just delivered something. But for that to take a year after the hell that you went through, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty amazing. Because it took me a hell of a lot more than a year.
Yeah. And it's a constant, just like you've been saying, it's a constant, like with your anger, it's like you work on it every day.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that you don't ever get angry, for more than 60 seconds or 30 minutes or whatever it is. Sometimes my fiance and I just had a tiff last night, and, we could have squashed it in 5 minutes. However, my feelings were still lingering. They just were. I was still angry after we were done. So instead of it being 5 minutes, it wound up being maybe an hour of me just irritated until I was able to. But that hour is way better than what used to happen, where it would be a whole day, with my exes, like an entire day would be ruined because of this little tiny tiff. And now, working on it, it was happened at like 11 o'clock at night. We're both tired. We had just driven. I had a speaking engagement up in Orlando this weekend. So like, we're both exhausted from the weekend. So like you combine all of this stuff and we're not as smart. Our toolbox isn't as accessible when we're,
Right.
a little out of our mind. So, but being able to use that and recognize exactly what you said with, being able to control ourselves. It's nice to be able to recognize that stuff. And I love that you talk about using a coach and having a coach, because I think that that's so important. Like just imagine how much your business has grown since you've been able to regulate some of your emotions mentally, emotionally with your
Oh,
spouse, your
huge.
relationships, your
Mhm.
business partners, your clients. I mean, your business can grow exponentially when other things in your life are working more fluidly.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with that is being authentic,
Yeah,
right? And I know I feel like that's been overused, like the past year, but it's really true because when we're our authentic selves, we attract the right people to us. When we're inauthentic, we attract people to that facade of who we are.
absolutely.
Um, and then that usually doesn't last because when you are yourself, they're like, oh crap, who's that? Right.
Yeah,
Now it's like what you see is what you get. This is authentic. This is who I am. This is who you're working with. Um, this is who you're loving. This is all of it. And I mean, I encourage people because I know there's so many people out there that feel they have to have a business persona and, a home persona and it's not that it's we're ourselves and we're ourselves in business, we're ourselves um you know i- personally. And for me that was a game changer because I had a coach, and I told you this, who told me um to be less me.
wow,
um and I did, and I got business, but it was the wrong business, it was the wrong people.
wow.
And then after I realized that he's obviously not a good coach, I fired him. um and then I started being me because I was like, if you're not okay with me, then you're not my people.
Yeah,
And if you're not my people, then you don't belong in my circle, whether it's business, whether it's, anything. Um, and that was super powerful because, you know, I love me. I think I'm a lot of fun. I mean, hell, I do. I think, I'm fun. I think I'm funny. I'm great to work with. I'm easy to work with. I can be a giant pain in the ass, but you know what? It's all part of the package. And I
yeah,
love all of it. And when I was able to say, screw it, I'm going to be me,
yeah,
um, everything changed. That's when my podcast started. That's when, the clients I have now who are my clients who are like, phenomenal. I mean, that's when everything changed.
wow.
So be yourself. If anyone ever tells you to not be you, tell them that,
Yeah,
because you're beautiful. I mean, we're all beautiful beings. We all have amazing things inside of us. We just have to really recognize them and, embrace them and live
yeah,
them.
yes. I love that. What a great way to close it up. I'm so glad that you brought that back up, and I love your take on that for sure.
I think it's important.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Well, I so appreciate you, everything that you're doing in the marketing industry for all of the entrepreneurs out there, men and women, right? You work with both?
yes, I work with both. I'm not prejudiced.
Awesome. I love it. So for those of you that resonated with Iris and all the goodness that she shared today, her story and just her expertise on marketing, make sure you check her out at GasStoveCreative.com. She's also on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We love connecting people here on this platform in order to continue to help us all rise. I want to thank everyone listening here live who's still hanging out with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for hanging out.
Joining us here on her version. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I love sharing stories. So if you have a story to share, find me at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth, tell stories, and inspire others. As